The American Revolution was not a cakewalk for the Americans. In fact, they lost more battles than they won. So today let's talk about one of their defeats, the Battle of Bunker Hill. But first, I have to warn you that this is the last episode we will be publishing in April. Starting next week, we will be moving to a new publishing schedule where we will be releasing episodes every other week. The reason for this is that we want to work on longer form content, as well as to ensure that the quality of our videos stays high. You guys have been absolutely amazing with all your support so far, and we really appreciate it. And we hope that you will continue to enjoy our videos now and in the future. Now back to the video. On June 17, 1775, British forces in Boston set out to seize the strategic high ground overlooking the city harbor. As most of you already know, this was a very important strategic location because whoever controlled the high ground could overlook the entire harbor. Therefore, both the Americans and the British knew that whoever possessed Breed Hill and Bunker Hill would have a significant advantage over the other. But as the British were soon to find out, seizing the hills would prove to be much easier said than done. The British began their march from Boston at around 3 o'clock in the morning, hoping to avoid detection by the Americans. However, one of their officers, Lieutenant Colonel Francis Smith, accidentally revealed their position when he dropped his sword. Someone shouted, "Take care, Colonel. You are among friends," alerting the British to the presence of American troops nearby. By 4 o'clock, the British had arrived at the base of Breed's Hill and began the long, hard task of marching up the hill. Meanwhile, on the hill, only 200 to 400 Minutemen and militia, many of whom were farmers or laborers, stood in their way. Their commander, Colonel William Prescott, ordered them to fire only when the Redcoats came within 50 yards. As the British neared the top of the hill, they came under heavy fire from the hidden Americans, forcing them to halt their advance and take cover behind a stone wall. In an attempt to break the stalemate, the British decided to assault the hill in two prongs, with Major General William Howe commanding the right flank and Lieutenant General James Wolfe leading the left. The idea was that by attacking from two sides simultaneously, the British could overwhelm the Americans and force them off the hill. However, what they didn't realize was that the Americans had set up their artillery on the left flank, facing the direction of the British attack. As the British advanced across the open field towards the American defenses, they came under fire from the cannons as well as from the muskets of the American infantry. Again and again, the British would charge up the hill, only to be driven back by the withering fire from the defenders. During these assaults, the British suffered heavy casualties, while the Americans, thanks to their superior firepower, suffered relatively few losses. However, despite their success in repelling the attacks, the situation for the Americans was becoming increasingly precarious. As the battle dragged on, their ammunition supply began to dwindle. At one point, a cannon was fired to signal that the Americans had only 400 rounds of ammunition left. Despite this, they continued to hold their ground and repel the British attacks until they ran out of ammo. Finally, just before 6 p.m., Colonel Prescott ordered his men to retreat after firing their last shot. As the Americans retreated down the hill, they were harassed by British infantry and artillery fire, but they managed to escape without suffering any significant losses. The British had finally captured Breed's Hill and Bunker Hill, but at a terrible cost. Out of the 2,260 British soldiers who had participated in the battle, 140 had been killed and 315 wounded. On the American side, 45 men had been killed and 140 wounded. Despite their defeat, the Americans had inflicted heavier casualties on the British than they had suffered themselves, which was a source of great morale for them. Moreover, the battle had demonstrated to the world the tenacity and fighting spirit of the colonial militias. Although they had lost the battle, the Americans had gained a psychological victory. Following the battle, the British occupied Breed's Hill and strengthened their fortifications there. However, the Americans never gave up their claim to the hill, and they continued to harass the British forces stationed there. On June 29, 1775, the Americans launched a surprise attack on the British in Boston, known as the Siege of Boston. By the end of the siege, the British had been forced to evacuate Boston, and the Americans had effectively gained control of the city and the surrounding area. After the British evacuated Boston, George Washington took command of the Continental Army, and the War for Independence continued. But that, as they say, is a story for another time. Now, as we wrap up this episode, we want to ask you for your input. What do you think was the turning point of the battle? Was it the American artillery fire on the left flank or the dwindling ammunition supply that forced the Americans to retreat? We're also curious about your thoughts on the leadership of both sides. Do you think that General Howe and Lieutenant General Wolfe made good decisions during the battle? How about Colonel Prescott and his fellow American commanders? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We also want to remind you to check out our other content, where we discuss a variety of topics related to history. We'd love for you to subscribe to our channel and join our growing community of history enthusiasts. You can also follow us on social media to stay up to date on all our latest content. If you've enjoyed this episode, we invite you to support us through various platforms. Your contributions will help us continue producing high-quality videos that bring history to life for you. And finally, if you haven't already, we urge you to subscribe to our channel. By subscribing, you will all be notified every time we upload a new video, and you will all be helping us grow our audience and reach more history lovers like you. Thank you for joining us today to learn about the Battle of Bunker Hill. Until next time, remember to stay curious, keep learning, and never stop exploring the past.